Smith and Wesson has finally released their steel frame MMP 2.0. This is long awaited. I personally have waited for this for several years now, even personally DMing Smith and Wesson on Instagram, being like, "Hey, where's the gun?" But finally, they released it. I finally was able to pick it up pretty quickly after they released it. Um, and first impressions, this is really nice. I really do like it. How it looks, I love the weight. The weight it does clock around when it unloaded is 34 or 35 ounces. When it with it loaded, also with the light, I had a light on it. It weighs at around 40 ounces, 49. Sorry, 49 ounces. So very hefty, very nice. I really do like heavy guns. And the first things I would say, what I really like, of course, is the enhanced aggressive stippling here on the actual slide. It is actually very nice and grippy. And the sights. Now, the only thing I do wish these sights were co-witness. I wish they were a little taller. But I do like the green trinium that they put right here. It is a very nice trinium. So easy, quick to pick up, especially compared to the competitors. Fiber optic, which was not very bright. I never really was able to see it very well. Just it wasn't great. And I heard some things about the fiber optic actually falling out, which is of course something you don't really want. But anyways, you're not really gonna have that problem with this one. Another thing that I really like that they kept on these guns was also the serrations. These serrations, though they looked simpler, they are still very aggressive. Um, very grippy, especially when my hands get wet or sweaty like they do. It is very easy to grab onto this. Now, this gun is not perfect. Um, there's a few things I wish were they did a little bit better. Um, and the first thing is the trigger. The first thing, if you do pick up one of these, is you will notice that the trigger reset is not really there. It's kind of non-existent. I would say so. Gun is unloaded, as you can see. So when I press this trigger, right, you get the same crisp break. You get a lot of take up too, but you do get the crisp break. But on the reset, try that again. It's really not there. Nor does it feel that it's really pushing my hand out, my finger out, so I can pull that trigger. This is my 4 1/4 MMP. This is the one I carry. And you will see same crisp break, but the reset, it is much more audible. Now, I don't know what Smith is doing. I don't know when it comes to engineering. Maybe something to do with the actual frame, the rigidness of the frame, rigidity of the frame, right? Could cause an issue or, whatever, how they're made it. I don't know. That's up to them. But just as a consumer, this is not the best. I've never really had to swap out an MMP trigger before. I've never really found the need to, especially for like this one, since it's my carry gun. I don't want to mess with the internals. But this one though, it won't really be much of a duty, or of course a duty, but like a carry gun. It's more like my fine gun. And so I may swap out the trigger for this one, just because of that reset. It's just not great. I don't know what's wrong, but it's not the worst thing, but it's definitely something I'm not a fan of. The other thing that I found with this gun is I believe I found a quality control issue. As a lot of people may be aware, Smith and Wesson has been kind of going dwindling in the QC since they moved to Tennessee. I don't know what's going on. I hope they kind of get it figured out. I've heard a lot of different reviews, especially with people having issues with their guns, even cracked frames, and things like that. And so for me, I was of course a little bit worried. So I got mine, and everything looked okay, except when I tried to swap the slides on these two, because I do want to try, of course, the 4 1/4 on the steel. And when I tried to put the 4 1/4 on the steel, the back plate hits the ejector. As you can see, it's a little beat up there. That was not there before. And then when I noticed back on the back plate now is that little chip right there. And then what I found out was that the ejector is ever so slightly bent here. As you can see, it kind of slightly goes up. I looked at some Reddit posts. I was like, hey, what's going on? Is this normal? And I've owned 7 to 8 MMPs like these, different variants of these, and I've never ever had that kind of problem before. And so I was like, hey, like, anyone else got this problem? And there were a few posts about it, and one guy was saying, hey, this is normal. And some of the people in the comments were like, yeah, I have one like this, and it had the little slightly bent ejector, and I never had any issues. I assumed that it was factory. So it seems to be an overlooked issue overall by Smith, and so I hope that it's not going to cause any issues. The people who owned guns before me, they said they didn't have any issues, so I'm hoping it doesn't. I really don't want to send this back to Smith. It will be my first ever warranty repair or warranty claim, and I just don't really want that. I don't think it will cause me any issues, but again, it is that kind of little cosmetic blemish that was inflicted on both of my guns here. But overall, first impressions, pre-range, no shooting, not one shot fired yet. I really am looking forward to getting into shooting this gun. Of course, I have it already. I am looking forward to shooting this and really seeing how it feels, how it handles, especially with the 5 and the 4 1/4. I'm really looking forward to that, especially with the light too, with a little bit extra weight. And a lot of people have told me that these guns or the metal feels like a 2011 or close to a 2011, which I'm like, I'm not doubting them in a way, but also I'm like, well, 2011's, just like most people think of like they're the ultimate race gun that feels the best. But I mean, Smith has figured out the formula to have a striker fired handgun that feels very much like a 2011. I'm all for it. I like how 2011 shoot; they do feel really nice. And if I can have a gun in my favorite platform, which is the M&P series, that feels like those, 2,000 to 4,000 to even $7,000 2011s, right? Yeah, of course, I'm all for it. Well, anyways, so I would say, let's say on a scale from like 1 to 10, I would probably give this an 8.5. I think it's a pretty fair rating. And minus points on the trigger and minus points on the ejector issue. Or I don't know if it's an issue yet, but ejector QC hiccup there. And I would say maybe zero point 0.5 points off on the irons not being, coat witness height. That might just be me. But I will report back once I shoot this, and I will give you the full breakdown on if it's really worth the 11.49 that I actually bought it for. It was on the dollar 11.49, not 11.50, 11.49. And so this right here, without the light and the optic, of course, was around $700. And so seeing, which one. Now these are also they serve two different purposes, not very different, but different purposes. Yes, you can duty carry this, but of course it's going to be heavy. And also, I have also heard, if you are new here and also new to this platform, these do not fit in Safariland holsters. So if you have the idea of wanting to carry a steel frame as a cop, be aware that these do not fit in the Safariland holsters. In the ALS does not work due to the slide here, where usually it actually locks onto here to keep the gun from falling out or being pulled out, has been smoothed out. So when the ALS locks here, it's going to slide off. Compared to the older models, which have that more sharp kind of curve there. That's something I learned, so I want to spread the message. I do have a Safari Lane ALS, and it does not work, unfortunately. Now, I do have a Tier 1 MSP holster, so it is with the light bearing, so I mean, I don't have that problem. And I also do not plan on carrying this for duty or anything like that. So it is more just kind of like a fun gun that I have that I can use maybe for home defense or something, but also I have almost 5,000 rounds in this gun. No issues, by the way, at all. No hiccups whatsoever. Not a light primer strike. I mean, that's mainly ammo, but not a primer strike, no extraction, anything like that. And I also barely clean this thing, and yet it still runs like a dream. But we'll see how these two compare. We'll kind of mix the slides, see what it's like maybe with the 5-inch slide on the polymer, the classic one. But tune back in later, and you'll see post range review.